Hey everyone, I'm here with my friends. We're at Pride. Woo! Let's go Pride!
No one knew it at the time, but 24 hours after these shots were taken, Toronto's gay community would never be the same again. Everything changed with the disappearance of Andrew Kinsman, a regular face in the gay village.
If anybody had any interaction with him during Pride, we'd love to hear from those people. You know, an investigation is like a jigsaw puzzle. We need pieces.
As a journalist and a gay man, this story got my attention.
Friends and family have led several searches across the city for Andrew. So far, no trace.
When I started digging, I found there was more to this than one missing man.
Police remain tight-lipped about their investigation, been assigned to search for Andrew Kinsman and another man.
Salim Essen was reported missing by a friend on April 30th, 2017.
The number of men missing from Toronto's gay village is sending shivers down spines. At least 5 men who frequent or live in the Church and Wellesley area have disappeared since 2010.
People that you see every day and then suddenly they're gone.
We all see the links, you know, they're all gay men.
Somebody is anti-gay, for sure.
I had to get to Canada to find out what happened to these men.
Andrew Kinsman has been missing for 10 days now, and tonight Toronto police say they cannot rule out that his disappearance may be linked to 3 unsolved mysteries, 3 men who disappeared from the gay village and have never been found.
I had no idea the story would turn into a 2-year investigation going back decades, involving drugs, missed opportunities, and murder. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you're gay, then seeing that rainbow flag can make you feel at home. They look like a cartoon, and I mean that in the nicest way, but they look like someone's drawn. Like a gay man in leather. It's quite nice. That's the point, innit? Because in a place like this, you get tribes. So you'll get the guys that wear leather, you'll get like the femme lesbians, the butch lesbians, you get the twinks, you get the bears, you get the jocks, and everyone's just hanging out. But some people would say, well, why does any community need to segregate itself, or why do you need to put up flags? Why do you need to claim an area? But I think people feel like that because they don't understand that outside of areas like this, sometimes, and actually often, in towns and cities across the world, gay people feel excluded. If you're from a place where maybe you've had to hide part of yourself, then coming to places like this, particularly when you're young, can be life-changing. It's meant to be a safe haven, and most often these places are. They are like little outposts telling people that they can be themselves here and they can be safe. But that's not always the case. To understand what happened to Andrew Kinsman, I had to find out who he really was.
I remember when he went missing, it was very strange because he is the most non-vulnerable person I can think of, you know? He's loud, he's a fighter.
So Andrew Kinsman was a really popular guy, and people like to talk about him, they like to remember him.
He was a no-nonsense, no-guff kind of guy. You know, funny, charming, and out and proud.
He'd been living with cancer for a while, but he wasn't afraid. The hospital was about 8 kilometers away. And after his rounds of chemotherapy, he would get on his bike and he would pedal home.
I miss the way he walks. You know, bounce in his step. And if I see someone like that, okay, oh no, that's not him. Because that's not him.
Andrew came to Toronto when he was in his mid-20s. And by this point, he's already out. He'd come out when he was at uni. And he's working for an AIDS charity. He was also working a bunch of bars, and one of those was this place, right in the middle of the gay village. It's called the Black Eagle. Of course, when anyone goes missing, it's worrying and it's horrible, and everyone that loves them is going to be worried sick. But with this, there was something bigger going on. This isn't just one guy going missing. There's a whole bunch of men that have gone missing from the village. I'm talking about over years and years and years.
There were a bunch of other men that were missing. The perception was that the police weren't doing anything. Whether they were or were not, I don't know. But it definitely felt like they weren't.
And so when Andrew goes missing, his friends decide they're not just going to rely on the police, they're going to make a lot of noise. They start putting up these missing person posters, and they're organising search parties across Toronto. One of the guys leading the search was Todd. I met him at the edge of a park where Andrew's friends had looked for him. Todd.
Hi.
Hello, I'm Mobeen. Really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Can you remember when you heard he was missing?
I do.
How did you hear?
Pride Monday. There was a posting on Facebook, and it was like, has anybody seen him, Andrew? And immediately, it was like, what? That's not Andrew. Because it was so out of character for Andrew to leave unannounced. It just didn't happen. And the fact that his cat was left unattended, and he loves his cat, and he would never leave his cat unattended.
Mm-hmm.
So we knew there was something drastic had happened here. Immediately, there was a report put into the police, a missing persons report put in, and then we started to put things together, because Andrew wasn't the first person who went missing like this, right? We had several people who had gone missing. And so, I got this sinking feeling. Oh my God, no. And so we started to get vocal, very vocal, and informing, the police that this is not going to go away. We are going to find where Andrew is. Whether you're going to help us find him or not, that's up to you. But we're not going to let this stop right here. Immediately, the search parties were developed. There'd be 5 or 10 in this area, another 5 or 10 in one area.
It's a difficult question, but were you looking for a body?
We were holding on, right? There was still hope, right? There was always that hope. We started to do flyers. Who, if you've seen Andrew, to contact the police, giving a description of him.
2 months after Andrew went missing, his friends still had no clue what had happened to him. This might sound odd, but Toronto police didn't have a dedicated missing persons unit. The police looked into Andrew's disappearance, but drew a blank. Detective Dickinson, Mobeen, really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Thank you for taking time. I'm good, thank you.
Go for a drive?
Yeah, please. With Andrew's friends making a lot of noise and the local press picking up the story, Toronto police set up a dedicated team, headed up by Detective David Dickinson. What do you normally do when someone goes missing?
Missing person investigations are very difficult because, for the most part, people are missing because they want to be missing. You don't necessarily have a criminal offense. You have somebody that's missing. You do your hospital checks, you call the coroner's office, you try to speak to friends and do follow-ups, but they're very difficult investigations. So when we took over, a lot of it was reviewing what had already been done, and it really wasn't until we started narrowing down the exact time when Andrew Kinsman went missing that we started getting some traction.
Detective Dickinson took me to Cabbagetown. This is where Andrew used to live, a place that would become crucial to the investigation.
There are 2 cameras of extreme importance. One right here on the side of this building.
Okay, yeah.
And then the main one that captured Andrew leaving his house was just down at the corner in front of his house, right across the street. We had gone back into Andrew Kinsman's apartment. We discovered a name on a calendar, a note that said 3 p.m. Bruce. We started looking at surveillance video for around 3 p.m. and we observed a red van that stops in front of Andrew's house. And I believe, Andrew gets into the passenger side of that van.
This is the CCTV. Top right. So there's the car, and there we go. That is it. That is the moment that Andrew gets into the car. And that is the last time that Andrew is seen. Last footage, last picture of Andrew. No one can see a number plate from this CCTV. The police have to work out whose car Andrew's getting into. Detective Dickinson, he told me that they worked out this is a red 2004 Dodge Caravan. But the issue is, in the province of Ontario, there's about 6,000 of those. So it's not easy to work out who owns this particular car. So here, something that becomes absolutely crucial is the calendar from Andrew's place. So on the day he went missing, Andrew himself is written 3 p.m. Bruce. The key thing is there's only 5 people who own that car who are also called Bruce. And eventually the police work out that one of these cars is owned by a guy called Bruce McArthur. This Bruce McArthur has taken his van from Toronto all the way east to a scrapyard outside of the city. So now, finally, the police had a name and a lead to a vital piece of evidence. Yes, of course, there's a railway crossing in the middle of a scrapyard. I'm a little bit worried about where I'm going to park my car. Sure, this person of interest might have just been scrapping his 13-year-old car. There is a chance, though, he was trying to get rid of anything that could link him to Andrew's disappearance. Did he seem like he wanted to get it done quickly? Did he seem like he was any kind of in a particular rush?
When you make an offer on a vehicle for somebody, in a lot of cases they say, basically, is that all you can offer? Is can't we get any more? And sometimes you haggle back and forth. This was no haggle. It was just what I offered. He accepted, and I paid him off, got the ownership, and that was it.
Did he explain why he wanted it scrapped?
No. We get a lot of those vehicles in here. They're all basically just falling apart. They're rotten. They're rusting out. So there was no need to. That's basically all it was. We're buying it for scrap, right?
Now, I'm no expert in Dodge Caravans, so I asked Dom, the guy that owns this place, to help me track one down. They're not that common in England. Is a Dodge Caravan pretty common?
Dodge Caravan is probably the #1 minivan in North America for sure.
Hey, by the way, I just left my car there. That's going to be all right, isn't it? It's not going to end up...
No, they won't take it away. You're okay.
It's not going to end up squashed.
No problem at all. Here's the Caravan.
What year would this be?
That's an 04.
So this is the same year?
That's the same year he had.
So it would be the same shape as this?
Yeah, same shape, same kind of car, yeah.
So it's pretty big, isn't it?
The seats are in that one.
When people come in generally, is there an assumption that the car is going to get scrapped quickly?
According to some of my salespeople, they've seen him here before. He was a customer here. He must have come in and bought parts in the past. So he should know that we don't scrap the cars immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe he wasn't thinking. I don't know. There's other places where the car would be brought in and go right to scrap. And within a day or two, it's been shredded and sent off to the processor.
Right.
He should have known that we don't do that because he's been here as a customer, apparently, on occasion.
Whatever his motivation, for the police, Bruce McArthur's visit to the scrapyard was a game changer. 3.5 months after Andrew goes missing, the police seize Bruce McArthur's 2004 Dodge Caravan. And if you look at the evidence photos, it doesn't particularly look like Bruce went to any great lengths to even clear his stuff away or separate himself from this being his car. I mean, look at this picture. It looks like he's left his coffee cup there. And there isn't anything obvious in these pictures that links Bruce to any wrongdoing or links Bruce to Andrew. But then forensics get involved. and they find little traces of blood in the car. And that blood is a match to Andrew's DNA. So at this point, Bruce McArthur becomes a suspect in the disappearance and the presumed murder of Andrew Kinsman. There's not enough evidence at this point to make an arrest. And so Bruce McArthur is put under surveillance. I want to flip back to the April of 2017. This is really important. 2 months before Andrew Kinsman goes missing, this guy goes missing. He's called Salim Essen. There's clear overlaps because he also goes missing from the village, but it doesn't make the same noise that it does when Andrew Kinsman goes missing. He's actually not even reported missing for a couple of weeks. At this point, though, there's nothing linking the name Salim Essen to the name Bruce McArthur. But Bruce McArthur is now under surveillance, and the police have a breakthrough. They're granted permission to go into MacArthur's flat when he's not there. And when they do that, they find a piece of evidence that changes everything.
We were able to get into his apartment when Bruce had gone out one day.
What was found?
We were able to copy about half his computer before we had to pull out. We thought Bruce was coming back home.
What was found on that?
You know, the first photograph was that of Salim Essen, deceased in Bruce McArthur's bed. It's very clear that he's in Bruce McArthur's bed. You know, we had been in Bruce's apartment. We knew what his bed looked like. It was very unique. To the date, you know, we had no evidence linking Salim Essen and Bruce McArthur. And now all of a sudden we go from no evidence to arrestable evidence. We now have photographic evidence of Andrew Kinsman, now deceased, in Bruce McArthur's van. And same thing, you know,
in the van,
in the back of that 2004 Dodge Caravan.
On Bruce's computer, the police found 18 photographs of Andrew Kinsman's dead body. And they also find multiple images of Salim Essen's dead body. It's pretty definitive evidence that Bruce McArthur murdered them. Just as the cops were working out when to arrest MacArthur, surveillance spotted him picking up another man. That's another potential victim. And that's when they called it. It was time to make their move.
It was very stressful because when we got to 95 Thorncliffe Park Drive, I'd learned that he'd already gone up to his apartment. Bruce lives on the 19th floor. I got into the lobby and only one elevator was working. And finally, when the doors open, the elevator's jam-packed to people. So we have to push our way into the elevator, and it pretty much milk runs the whole way up to 19. It almost stops on every second or third floor. So a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. Finally, the doors open on 19 and we get out and we make our way to Bruce's apartment. We knock on the door, obviously with plans that we're gonna force it if we have to. But then Bruce comes to the door. I hear him say, "I'm coming," and he opens the door, and at that point we push our way in. The person he was with was in the bedrooms in Bruce McArthur's bed. He had a blind on his face and he was bound. And Bruce is arrested at that time for 2 counts of first-degree murder. That for the murder of Andrew Kinsman and Salim Essen. At that point, we hadn't uncovered any remains. We didn't know who else was involved. You know, by this time now, we're starting to uncover photographs of other men who we had no idea who they were.
MacArthur had been arrested for the murders of Andrew and Salim, but their bodies were still missing, and there were question marks over the whereabouts of the other mystery men. The police narrowed their investigation to the garden of a home in the middle of suburban Toronto, 3 miles away from the gay village.
We spoke to residents who are shocked to see this much activity in a relatively quiet neighborhood, and they're only left but wondering just what will police find here.
Men in hazmat suits drag a plant from the yard.
Police have unearthed the dismembered remains of at least 3 unidentified individuals.
More analysis needs to be done to determine who these remains belong to.
You can see forensics remains at the scene. You're seeing them remove a second plant pot.
I can now confirm we have recovered the remains of at least 6 individuals. We have at least 7 sets of remains.
They found human remains belonging to the 8th missing man, and they believe it could end there.
What kind of case is it? It's a serial killer.
There is no way on earth that anyone could predict that the police were going to end up finding the bodies of 8 men in the back of someone's garden. Some of these guys, they hadn't even been reported missing. It ended up being the biggest serial killer case in the history of Toronto. So this went back years and years. I'm talking about all the way to 2010. This 7-year period where Bruce McArthur is murdering people. And the guy that was responsible for the whole thing, he was known for being a shopping mall Santa Claus. So why would a man that was known in the community for being a shopping mall Santa want to kill multiple gay men? And the bigger question is, how did he get away with it for so long? Toronto was freezing. If I was going to work through a Canadian winter, I had to start with the basics. And that meant investing in some long johns. I'm looking for some thermals to keep,
Thermals,
we
have
to
a
keep
lot
me
of thermal
warm.
back there. A lot of people, they don't like it because it's itching.
Oh, okay, yeah, I
but,
don't want
yeah,
anything to itch.
But this is actually better quality because it's wool.
Okay. I'm following a story. Have you heard of a guy called Bruce McArthur?
Yeah, well, I never met the guy. But the only thing I know, a lot of guys, they told me, they know from around here, the guy, he was gay. The guy who killed them.
Bruce McArthur was gay?
Yeah. So
who told you that? Was it one of your customers?
One of my, they know he was a gay. That's what they say. So, whatever they tell me, I said. It's a pleasure to serve you, and it is a pleasure to take your money.
When I first heard about the murder of men from the gay village, I thought homophobia must have had a part to play. But if the killer himself was gay, well, that's another story entirely. This area is called Bennington Heights, and it's exactly what you expect a place called Bennington Heights to look like. It's really cute. It's proper suburbia. But the victims, they ended up here. I don't really understand why you do that, because if it was, in a horror movie, they always try to get rid of bodies in a forest or a swamp or something remote, not in the middle of suburbia, around a lovely, cute house. This is the one.
The inside of 53 Mallory Crescent has now been released to the homeowners, who arrived back just after 3 this afternoon, avoiding the media and the massive police investigation right outside their door.
And those homeowners are still inside. They have now closed their blinds and they are not speaking with the media.
Hello, Karen, I'm Mobeen. Knowing what happened here, I reckon a lot of people would pack up and leave. But Karen and Ron stayed. Still coming to terms with what was found in their garden, they agreed to show me round.
This is Spooky.
Hey, Spooky, aren't you beautiful?
It was the cats we were worried about. We worried about them because they were trapped in the house for a week.
So the house was completely raided?
Oh yeah, every inch.
Everything was turned upside down.
Every inch.
There were 20 or 30 people in here at a time.
Wow.
We came in actually in hazmat suits to be able to feed the cats one time.
For a while.
With a bunch of other people as well.
What's that? Sorry, what's that?
Hazardous materials. So think those white
so like
forensic suits.
So you came in
to
feed the cats in one of those?
Yep.
And then the head of
And the media
forensics arrived.
mistook us for cops because they're all dressed like that. So we were able to be fairly private.
Can I ask you, you know this?
Yes,
is that from
here?
So this was from when the police were looking through the house, is that right?
It was lying in the backyard when they tore it down.
Have you kind of kept this as a reminder of what you went through?
No, it matches the wall.
Okay.
No, yes, we have. It fit the decor.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, it fits the wall. But I mean, because some people would perhaps just want to get rid of any memory of that time.
You can't. It's everywhere, every day, all the time. We really can't get rid of it.
Bruce McArthur was a gardener hired to look after Karen and Ron's backyard for the best part of 15 years. As part of the deal, MacArthur stored his gear at their place. They thought of him as a friend. That's until they found out he'd hidden human remains in plant pots around their garden.
You know, this was part of one of his planters. It's still here because it's so heavy.
Why do you think he chose this house?
Because it was 1 mile from his apartment. It's handy. We were away in the summer. When the trees come out in the spring, you can barely see next door. It's quite secluded. And this way, there's no one to see anything.
As soon as they said we need to take some of the pots away, did you know what might be in there?
No, not really.
So when did they tell
were
you?
Frozen about a week later. They had to wait for it to thaw. And then the forensic pathologist did her work.
So was there body parts of more than one victim?
Yes. And they have been moved, rearranged. I have no idea what that was about, but that's what happened.
Do you mean he'd buried them and then later rearranged them?
Yes.
And the pathologist worked that out?
Yes. Cut through here.
Body parts of 7 different men were found in plant pots in this garden, but it didn't stop there. Months later, police dogs sniffed out even more remains.
Now, if you take a look at this hill, it didn't look like this. You wouldn't have been able to see that large rock 2 years ago. That was all dug out by the police.
Police sifted through 2 compost piles, dumped on a ravine behind the house where MacArthur stored his landscaping tools. Every day, police found something. Human remains, strewn, literally, in bits and pieces.
They had found the last victim, and that really upset us. I don't know why. I think we thought it was all over.
Yeah.
And then, I'm glad they found him, of course, but that was a shock. It's like it's never going to stop. It was a body, and then there was a garbage bag underneath with body parts in it.
Right.
From some of the men who had been in the yard.
Why did you decide not to leave?
He didn't take our faith in humanity, but I guess he gave that a good try. Not going to take our home. Absolutely not. We're stubborn. Mm-hmm. See, in the beginning, you assumed that he had difficulty getting rid of the bodies, and finally I tuned in. He wasn't getting rid of them. He was keeping them.
I mean, it's so gruesome, you really don't want to go there.
I know you've got lots of memories of Bruce. Is it difficult when you think about conversations or the sound of his voice?
No, because he just sounds like Bruce. He just...
What does Bruce sound like?
We have one message left on my phone.
You still have the message?
Yes, I do.
Hi, Karen. It's Bruce. It's 11 o'clock on Tuesday. Just wanted to know, I'm taking a load of stuff to the dump today. If there's anything you want to go, can you put it out front in front of the garage with all the other stuff I'm going to take? around noonish at your place or something like that, and maybe 1 o'clock. Okay? Thanks. Bye.
He sounds so normal.
No, I mean, if this had not happened, if I did not know this, how would I describe Bruce McArthur? He is a kind, generous man.
Be a great friend, great neighbor.
And that was the Bruce we knew.
Hi, Karen. It's Bruce. It's 11 o'clock on Tuesday.
Karen says Bruce left a voicemail on the 18th of April, 2017. Right, and Salim Essen, he was last seen on April 14th, 2017.
Around noonish at your place or something like that, and maybe 1 o'clock.
So this is 4 days after he's murdered someone, and he's calling Karen and saying, do you need any help? I'm gonna be heading to the dump. To be able to separate what you have just done to someone is just unbelievable. I've got hold of the actual police investigation files. It's pretty huge. There's more than 1,000 pages here. The police believe that Bruce killed most of his 8 victims in the bedroom. And actually forensics worked out what he actually did. And essentially, he would strangle his victims. We know that he used rope. Sometimes he'd use this metal bar coated in tape. This is really, really horrible. Sometimes after they're dead, there's this fucked up ritual. He'd dress them up in a fur coat. He'd shave their heads and he'd put a cigar in their mouth. And then he'd take pictures. So he'd keep these pictures. It's as if he wanted to relive what he'd done. Thousands of gay men hang out in the village. So why were 8 of them singled out by a serial killer? Maybe they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. There must be other guys out there who met MacArthur. I've been looking at this Facebook group. I've become a little bit obsessed with it. It's called Serial Killer Bruce McArthur Discuss the Case. So this guy's posted, when I was in his apartment, I was doing sex work. I was broke and homeless, off and on and addicted to drugs. He responded to an ad. He's talking about Bruce. He responded to an ad that I'd posted on Craigslist and was offering me money for sex. 6 years ago, I quit using, got my life together until I saw him in the news. So this guy is called Josh. I don't even know if he's in Toronto. I think it is worth reaching out to him. Turns out Josh lives 2,500 miles away on the other side of Canada. He told me he'd fly over to Toronto and take me to MacArthur's place where he last saw him. How was your flight?
Good, it was good.
How long is the flight?
Like 4 hours.
God, you guys have such a massive country. You flew 4 hours. Jump in.
Thank you. This side?
Yeah, you can jump in there.
Thank you.
It was the first time Josh had been back in Toronto since he met MacArthur.
Up to 14, 15, I lived with my mom. And then me and my mom had a falling out when I was about 15, so I lived outside.
Why did you have a falling out?
Because I came out, basically. Looking back, I think it was more my drug addiction, probably.
What were you using at the time?
Crystal.
When you were 15?
Yeah.
Wow, can you remember how you got started on crystal?
Like, I was smoking weed, obviously, and then from that we were doing E and mushrooms and all those things, and then eventually did crystal. I used up until I was 25, almost every day.
Wow, were you homeless in that period?
Yeah, when I was a kid, it was pretty much just outside every night. Some of my other friends were doing sex work, and then that's probably when I started, when I was about 17, maybe.
Was it scary, or did it just feel like a thing?
Maybe like the first, up until it actually happened. But once I did the first one, you realize just how easy it is. It was almost no different than a hookup, like just sex off the internet. And then the fact that I actually had money, and I never had money like that before in the past. Like growing up, I was really poor and stuff like that. And so to finally have just have all this money, I was just shocked how easy it was.
I always imagined serial killers lived in seclusion. But not MacArthur. He was on the 19th floor of a tower block surrounded by people. What did you think the moment you met him?
And he seemed actually really nice, but he seemed nice.
Did you know what he wanted?
He grabbed the back of my head and just harder than I've ever been grabbed and just like pushed it down. And I remember being like kind of freaking out, and then he stopped, and then he did it again, harder than I've ever been pushed.
But where to?
Hit his crotch, kind of.
So, okay.
Yeah, and the fact that he was really aggressive, that's when I really actually started to get kind of worried. And then, but I was like really worried about the money, so I stayed. He asked if anyone else knew I was here, like because I told him I had a boyfriend. He asked if my boyfriend knew I was here, and I told him how me and my boyfriend kept track of like where each other were all the time. And that's when he like had a flip out. And he's like, I don't think this is gonna work.
Do you think he flipped out that your boyfriend knew you were here because he was planning something?
Well, looking back now, that's what I think. Yeah, for sure. Now I'm just like how stupid. Like that should have been the first like warning sign or something. I remember him being kind of unsure if he wanted to continue, and then eventually I agreed to letting him either tie me up with handcuffs or rope. I'm not really sure which one. And then when he put the blindfold on, I made sure I was able to like kind of remove it because I was kind of nervous. I took the blindfold off basically, and he was just staring like just dead cold at my face, sort of. Like I think he was deciding if I could leave there or not. And then he actually asked me if I wanted to go for breakfast, and he took me to breakfast.
Really?
Yeah.
Josh's escape was beyond lucky. MacArthur had killed 2 men by the time they met in 2012. He went on to murder 6 more. It's a bit odd just knowing what happened in this building.
Yeah.
Why did you want to come back?
Like I have to kind of think there's.
It's okay. It's
all right.
It's fine.
I have to kind of think there's a reason. If that makes any sense at all.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, maybe, or.
Come on. Are you okay?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm such a baby.
No, don't be sorry. You don't need to be sorry.
Nothing actually happened to me, you know? I don't know. Like, I don't know. So at the time, my life wasn't really, like, I wasn't a contributing member of society or anything like that. I was like, just like a crystal meth addicted, like, hooker, basically. So, like, I'm alive and then somebody else is dead. And then, I don't know, it's just.
You can't think like that, though, because, you know, thinking of it in terms of you survived, so does that mean someone else didn't?
Yeah.
That suggests that you were at fault, and you were completely not at fault. Do you know what I mean? You don't have any responsibility. This was something to do with, it was him. It's not your responsibility. You didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So you've got to accept that you haven't done anything wrong.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good.
Do you want to grab a drink or something?
Yeah, sure.
There's people that will look at Josh's story and they'll think about him doing crystal and they'll think about him being a sex worker and they'll make judgments. But ultimately what happened to him and everything that had happened to him as a child and as a teenager and everything that had led to the point that he'd gone to that apartment block, all of that stuff meant that on that morning, he was vulnerable. You know, when Josh talks about the moment Bruce asked him, who knows you're here? And I wonder if Josh telling him that his boyfriend knew, I wonder if that's what saved his life. You posted an advert.
I posted an ad on Craigslist for like sex and money.
Both Josh and Raj were strangers to MacArthur.
Bruce, Raj, how's it going?
Which makes complete sense because every bit of research that I've seen suggests that serial killers will hunt out strangers. There isn't a connection. They don't want people pointing fingers. They don't want to get caught. If I go back 18 months before MacArthur met Josh, there's a guy called Skandaraj Navaratram, widely believed to be his first victim. And that's when he goes missing. I know from his friends that this guy did not have an easy life. He'd come from Sri Lanka and he'd been this environmental activist. And he said he'd been tortured during the Civil War. So he comes over to Toronto as a refugee in 1997, and then he starts this whole new life. 2 years before he went missing, he'd come out to his family, but then he goes missing, and it's 7 years later in Karen and Ron's garden that his body's found. And at Bruce McArthur's flat, the police find Skanda Raj's personalized bracelet that MacArthur has kept like a souvenir of his murder. So how did Skanda end up in MacArthur's flat? Was it a paid hookup like Josh? Or just a chance meeting? Hey, Sarah, I'm Mobeen. How are you doing?
Nice to meet you.
All right? Sarah was a good friend of Skanda. They hung out all the time before he went missing. It's really nice to meet you. I like these paintings.
Thank you. I made most of them.
Oh my God, they're really nice.
Thank you. Come on in. I love that photo of us. We were dancing together.
You both look really happy.
Yeah, we were having a great time.
Or can you remember when he actually went missing, or when you heard he was missing?
It took us a little bit too long to decide as a friend group that he was missing. That's something that I really regret. He was gone for a week before the missing persons report was filed.
Why was a missing persons report filed after a week? Why do you think it wasn't?
Because I think it was a long weekend and we were all out of town. So it took a handful of extra days and we printed out posters, put them up all over Church Street. And Bruce McArthur helped us do that.
He helped you?
Yeah, helped us do that. And then when they raided his apartment, I hate saying his name. When they did his apartment, they found posters that he had helped us put up.
Why do you think he was helping you put up the posters?
Who knows? Must have gotten some gratification from it.
Had you been aware of Bruce as a part of the community, a friend of Skanda? How did you know Bruce?
Only really from, in hindsight, some photographs. I didn't know him well enough to know the background.
Right.
I took that photo of him. Look at those eyes. Too loving. I think it'll stay with me forever. I still have nightmares. But I won't let it stop me from trusting and loving. That's what Skanda would want. And that's what he would do.
You okay?
I'm okay.
He sounds fun.
He was fun.
He sounds like my kind of guy. There's this bit in the police files, the Skanda, that references him being seen in September 2010 at a bar called Zippers, that's on Church Street in the middle of the gay village. And it says that's the last place Skanda was seen. And it references an unknown male. Obvious question, is that unknown male Bruce McArthur?
Not be completed due to insufficient balance. To keep chatting, dial *611.
Now, I had a list of Skanda-related contacts to work through, including Fred. I've been told he also knew MacArthur from around the village.
Hello?
Hello there, is that Fred?
Yeah, it's Fred here.
Hello, Fred. My understanding is you knew Skanda, is that right?
We were sort of dating in a way for about 3 months.
Oh, okay.
He had a daddy complex for older men. My friend ended up telling me that Skanda was seeing other daddies.
I just want to be clear, when you said Skanda was looking for other daddies when he was with you, So other relationships. Are you talking about Bruce?
My friend saw Scanda's name on Bruce's fridge.
Are you suggesting he was seeing Bruce?
I don't know. I really don't know.
I'm guessing Skanda isn't the most common name in Toronto. The fact it was on MacArthur's fridge 2 years before he went missing is a pretty wild coincidence. Unless it's not a coincidence at all and they knew each other. And if that's the case, then MacArthur wasn't just targeting strangers. I kept working through the numbers I'd been given, trying to piece together Skanda's life. Hello. Kevin told me he knew him from way back, when he first arrived in Canada.
We go to restaurants, he'd try to get me to eat all these hot sauces, and I'd be dying. And he'd be laughing at me, and I said, never again, but...
He sounds really
cheeky.
nice.
Yeah, he was a bit cheeky. He liked to tease me and then laugh at me.
Were Bruce and Skanda actual friends?
Well, they were actually dating, because I got introduced to him in November 1999.
Are you absolutely sure they were dating?
Yes. The last time I saw him, he said, well, he's still with the landscaping guy. I guess Bruce was a landscaper. I used to call him the landscaping guy. He looked concerned, and I said, what's going on? He said, well, Bruce is violent. And I said, did he touch you? And he said, no. I said, Skanda, you're lying to me. He said, no, he didn't touch me. I said, well, here's my number. Call me if you need me. I'll come and get you. Now, I know he wouldn't go to the police because he was afraid of the police because of his experience in his homeland, in Sri Lanka. I was very, very worried and concerned about him. But since I didn't hear from him, I figured that they patched it up. I just took it as a fight, an argument.
Yeah. When he told you that Bruce was violent, that would have been, what, 2009? And in that 10-year period, you believe he was in a relationship with Bruce?
Yeah.
Did people know that they were together?
Well, I don't think so, because a new friend of Skanda didn't even know they were dating. He didn't like any embarrassment or public displays. He was a private person.
Over 10 years, they must have really, really known each other.
I guess I'll never understand it. Why, after all that time, did you decide to kill him? I don't understand it.
Skanda wasn't just someone that Bruce bumped into or had a fling with. They were together for 10 years. And if you're with someone for that long, you think that you know everything about them. And if you know everything about them, then you think you trust them, and you trust them with your life. But did you get the impression that Bruce and Majid had been having sex regularly?
Oh, I knew that.
Right.
Yeah, I knew that.
Did the police contact you?
They dropped the ball.
If the police did a good job or not, I leave to their own conscience.
You go back to the office and say, I think we have a serial killer, and everybody laugh. Of course.